So welcome to this session on team coaching. Susie Warnman is going to be presenting a case, and when we present a case, we ask colleagues who work as team coaches to share their experience working with a team. It is more difficult to show recordings of teams and team coaches working with teams because of confidentiality issues. So because of that, a good way to learn about team coaching interventions is by the team coach sharing his or her experience working with a team. And this is what Susie is going to be doing today. Tracy has done it last month. Eva, we're going to invite you to do that in the future. Eva has a lot of experience as a team coach. And also for people who are listening to us, we are starting a new team coaching certification program next year in March. We're starting cohort 14 and 15 in Spanish, so we do it in English and Spanish. And the program lasts 9 sessions, and in it okay, well, I edit this later. We changed the program, that's the reason why I said no. So before it was 9 programs. So now the program lasts 18 weeks. Every session lasts 2 hours, and we do different presentations on different topics, and also we have practices as team coaches inside the program. So people have the opportunity to practice team coaching inside the program and outside the program with a real team. And today, Susie, who is part of the trainers, the facilitator, the supervisors, is going to be sharing a case. Susie has been working in the team coaching since the beginning. She's also a supervisor and participate and collaborate with us in our supervision training. She's also a mentor coach, also collaborate in the mentor coaching program. So we get to do a lot of work with Susie in English and Spanish. Susie is originally from Mexico and lives half of her time in Mexico City and the other half in Miami when she's not in Chicago visiting her daughter. So, Susie, great to have you here. Anything that you want people to know about you?
Well, thank you. You've said a lot. I would just like to add that team coaching, for me, it's where the systems transform, where the dynamics shift, and where people grow not only individually but collectively. And I'm absolutely passionate of team coaching. I've been doing this. I trained as a coach formally 19 years ago. And right away I said, I want to go into team coaching. So I started getting different certifications. This is almost 18 years ago. So, and of course, shifting the way I look at it and different methods and learning new things. And, but I'm really passionate about team coaching. So today, I think what I would like to share with you is to bring together a case uh, that I'm still working on that brings together complexity. It brings together culture. It brings together conflict, vulnerability, and transformation with this team. Uh, in this case, I had to bring a lot of my intuition into it because I was reading some things in one side and reading others on the other side. And I think really important is to bring in this systemic view, the ability to read what was said, what was not said were essential. I think something really important is that to keep confidentiality of this team, which we're still working on, of course, I won't mention the whole detail exactly as it was uh, because of this, but I think that whole context will be good enough for you. So if you're ready, we can start. I'll give you a little bit of the context. I was invited by the CEO of this global organization to work with her executive team. They had never done leadership development, coaching, anything before. Everything was new, and they were like eager to learn. The team, I believed at that point was, or at least what she shared with me, it was highly talented. They had good results, but they were exhausted. They were fragmented, and they were losing trust day by day, meeting by meeting. So, so before I met with the team, I had two conversations with the administrative director, um, and then deeper one with the CEO to have more clear what were the performance issues and her view and her observations. And obviously what I got from her was there were cultural tensions, growing frustrations, and a team that did not have any psychological safety together. I mean, I that was my intuition. That's not something she said, but anyway. So this team, there were 12 leaders. Uh, they were from different countries, US, Puerto Rico, El Salvador, Spain, which is important to mention, um, Japan, which this person joined to the virtual meetings, but not to the in-person one. But anyway, and something else important to mention is this administrative director. She helped organize everything. She gave me so much input, but she didn't show up. Um, okay. The rest of the team, I think there were intense conflict between Spanish people with the Spanish culture and Americans. At least that was my first reading, which changed later on. Okay, so what did I do? I contracted for the team assessment online. Uh, there were like 20 questions. I've been working with this diagnostic assessment for many, many years. This was one of the first ones I learned, and then I've been adding other things. And then it had like 5 open questions, 3 virtual team coaching sessions of 2 hours, and one in person, a little longer. Total, and then and not, yeah, a final one virtual that is still to come that we haven't done yet. I've done the other ones in person and the 3 first virtual ones. Actually, the in-person one was maybe like 2.5 months ago, and they wanted to leave some space to work on what they had and do this like a realignment coaching after. Okay, so should I start sharing? Well, the challenge, the word, I'm going to start sharing. I think sometimes having this visually, and please interrupt me anytime. We can do this in a dynamic way. So I'm going to tell you why I use the cars. You'll get it in a second. Okay, so this is what I contract for. And this was the objective that she, the CEO, sent me even in writing. This is what she wanted. And a little bit, she sent it after our conversation, so she probably got some of the little coaching I was able to do with her. So she said, I need to chat. My challenge is common understanding and building a common framework with the participants. And then I asked her to put in writing after our conversations what was her biggest challenge. And she said there are different cultures, different styles, different ways of communication, and this is really causing trouble and affecting a little performance already. And then she used the word, we need to re-energize the team quickly. Those were her words. Okay, so what did I do? I began the assessment. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I think it's nicer just to see you. I began the assessment online. I have somebody help me with the charts and everything, and then the individual interviews. I interview everybody. One person a little after we started because he was never available. Um, so what was interesting it was that the closed questions didn't reflect the severity of the leadership of what she had described. And the open questions, people were so honest, so open. Like they thought, my feeling was this is the opportunity for me to write and say what I have inside. So in the open questions, what I got was, of course, frustration, blame, a lot of blame, and indirect aggression, like passive aggressive. I think it was more aggressive. I saw it in person. Cultural misinterpretations. They were blaming different cultures, to the problem. Um, Confusion in roles. This is not mine, this is yours. Why should I do it? That kind of problems, unspoken tensions, and as I said, fatigue. So I think that when I started doing the individual interviews, people were very honest, very open, and I was able to build this trust. So during the interviews, the Spanish leaders, the two leaders, were very upset of how they were receiving these aggressive comments of sometimes the CEO and mostly from the American culture people. The El Salvador director, he was very quiet. He didn't participate. He said everything was perfect. I think it's important for you to know. And I don't know. I even received a comment of one that said, I want to read it because I thought it was very important. He said, "We are always walking on eggshells." So I could feel the ghost in the room, definitely. A mix of fear, a mix of frustration. I knew something was really going on in here. So I'm going to share with you some of the charts, just so you can see them. Not that they say much, because as I said, the charts of the open questions, the closed questions didn't were not as severe as they should. I don't know. Like I asked them, the team regularly evaluates its performance. So we have here like red and this color, a sort of yellow is I disagree, and yellow is somewhat I agree. So obviously they didn't talk about performance and how to improve. I thought it was important. These are the three lowest um, questions. Communication styles are well understood and aligned. I think it's important, but it really doesn't reflect what I was hearing in the personal interviews. Like, if I would just read the charts and go for the charts, I would have done something totally different. So I think the importance of looking at everything in a systemic way. In this team, I feel safe to express my ideas, concerns, and opinions. So here we have, you know, more than a third of people that feel, no, I can't. But others, yeah, I agree. I felt they were rushed. They did rush them to answer, and they gave them like 5 days, even though I wanted a little more. So those were uh, the results. These were some of the open questions, and some of these were used in the interview. Okay, so people really opened up here. Um, because I knew there were concerns, so I asked which were the concerns. First, I wanted to know if they were all aligned in the objectives of the team to make sure that everybody's going in the same direction, which they were not. The biggest obstacles, differences in communication. They insisted so much that it was the culture and differences in communication because of the culture. I wanted to make sure if it was culture or really personal people having different ways of communicating, which at the end was one of my big conclusions, and collaboration. So, well, these are just some of the questions I asked. So, okay. So I went into session number one. In session number one, let me see. Okay, session number one, what did I want to do? First of all, I wanted to contract with the team, explain what team coaching was. They were pretty quiet, uh, not much participation, like everything was fine. So then what I did was I went to the first, I really like to start like asking, what is an effective team for you? So I have a little video of carpets that is 50 seconds. And it's like, it shows just how aligned a team can be, like perfect. Actually, it's an old video. The new ones, they're like in 10 seconds, right? But it's how they perform in a carpet. And so here, this was like a turning point, I think. Well, before that, I opened with strengths finders, um, check in, like introduce the person. I made a list who they would introduce because it was virtual. And for many, it was the first time they would say something positive about somebody else. They had to introduce the person, I mean, not on the right because it was virtual, but with what is the biggest strength they bring to the team? That was my question. So I felt we started in a nice way. And after the video, I asked what made this team effective. So participation exploded, believe me. I mean, they were so quiet the first 30 minutes, but then, boom. So then I brought, Tuckman's stages of a team, and I asked them, I have them here. Um, I asked them, okay, so what stage do you think the team is? After we had a great discussion about confidence, about roles and responsibilities, about trust, about everything. And and I think it was very interesting because I sensed there was conflict, but it was not yet safe to talk about this conflict openly. So I held the tension asking what conversations are missing in this team because they started saying, well, we're in this level because of this, and we're in that level because of that. So after that question, I think that cracked the first layer of the team. So I think we had good conclusions. Uh, the team, then after we did that, I asked, okay, so what would you like your next sessions to be? What would be the objective? I went back to the objective of the whole process. And this is what they wrote, the team's conclusions. We need to learn more about the culture. They continued saying it was a culture problem. Um, and clarifying roles because that was important for them. Because when you see the video, clarifying roles is really important. They talked about not ground rules. They don't use that word. They use like golden rules of the team. They didn't have any. They had never used any. So I like to use the word ways of working. And they wanted to work conflict, and they mentioned feedback because we talked about the video that it's really important to have feedback. So, okay, I think it was a good number one session starting. Nothing deep, but at least they started to have some awareness. Um, okay, so let's see. Session two, uh, I had planned in my mind to do these ways of working and the ground rules. That was my idea. But after the check-in, where I asked people to, what was the check-in? It was bring an object, show an object that shows how you coming into the session. Everything was nice and everybody was like, seemed to be like working. But then somebody just said, um, how can I know how I'm feeling and what we need to work on? He said, if I don't even know what I'm racing toward. He used the same metaphor of the car pits. Like I don't even know what we're racing for. So we all asked. I asked questions like, "What would it be if you knew?" And I asked the team. So I changed. I didn't. I decided it was a good time to talk about the purpose of the team. I mean, they had never talked about something like that, and so I followed the thread. I We worked on purpose, a little bit of Clutterbuck's model, and uh, and after that, then I brought, the rules, how we want to work together, ways of working. They were good, but in my view, their conclusions were deep and good, but it was more like a wish list, and there was a wish list that without trust they wouldn't work. But I didn't want to say it. I just let them, make this wish list. I think it's good to have a vision, know where you're going, as this leader mentioned. I knew then that what was missing here was this psychological safety. So then I went into the third session. I thought this was the pivotal, is that how you mentioned? Pivotal moment. Because this session really had to do with trust. I open up like with a check-in check, sharing something nobody knows about you in the team. And there were very interesting things. People liked it. There was warmth, there was connection. Then I started with deeper questions like what does feeling safe mean for you, for the team? Where does trust break? If safety, this was a question I think was a turning point. If safety increased by 10%, what would you notice in this team? I mean, I didn't want them to like look at it like total safety because I know we need to build it here, but just a tiny little thing. And the truth, I could feel the heat on the system. I could feel like something was happening. People were starting to be vulnerable. And then what I did, I asked questions in an individual for them to answer individually. Like I opened a vulnerable space to build what people needed to feel the safety. So I asked questions such as, what do you, I need, like I wanted them to answer, what do you need to feel safe, like individually. I didn't force the answer to everyone. Those who wanted to participate shared. Most of them shared, especially after the first one shared, what behaviors could you do to impact the safety on the team? And if you felt 100% self, how would it feel? You know, these kind of questions. And then that's when the girls from Spain and the American girls started, you know, having this openness. Um, I could hear, I wrote here some of the comments that I liked that I think were important. One said, the US leader, they were attacking her a lot, I felt. She said, my directness becomes aggression when I'm stressed. So she was blaming others for her stress, right? Like, you stress me. So I worked with that later on. One of the Spanish leaders, she said, when people interrupt me and force me to ridiculous deadlines, I shut down because they were blaming her that she doesn't give a date, that she's like up in the air with her answers. She doesn't really, she has no accountability. Another answer that I thought was important is I hold back because I'm afraid of triggering conflict. There's too much conflict in this team and an aggressiveness. So I think all these answers were so effective for them to start going into this mood of trust. And something became very visible for me. It's there were different communication rhythms, and I brought it in. I showed them not so nice because this I prepared for this presentation, but I talked about, I had facilitated a little bit about different communication forms, you know, those who need to go straight to the point and those who need to explain more and more. Some people have other needs, you know, direct communication, others have the need to explain the why. It's really and the task, some need to focus on execution, others, you know, they need the connection. So I think the conclusion of the team was that conflict wasn't really personal. It was, they liked it. They really liked this way of looking at it in a different way. It was really the ways they were communicating. So I think we were going in the right direction. Uh, Now we went into communication that is not cultural, it's not the Spanish people or the American people, it's the way each person communicates. And this helped the team see that it wasn't personal. Um, I believe because of the comments, I could sense they were starting to see not stereotypes, but seeing themselves as humans. And we ended with a micro behavior, you know, talk straight, let's see what I need, what I would like. Actually, I didn't facilitate that. They did it, they went on their own almost in this session. I think that's what happened. So on the last virtual, the in-person session, important that they had never ever met it in person. The CEO had fly to different countries. Maybe one person comes, but they had never met. And they had the dinner. I didn't go. I wasn't invited. But the night before, this was in the United States. I had to fly. The night before, they had a dinner, and what I understand was everybody was in, you know, in the best attitude. They were happy to see each other, even those who have conflict. And very soon, I'm going to stop talking. And so in the in-person, I started like my idea was working on feedback, because I thought was a compliment, straight talk, compliment of opening up. Um, but things as we know in coaching, it's never what we plan and what it is. But I started asking questions, going back to the roles and responsibilities, because that was one of the objectives and I didn't want to just skip it, right? So I started asking, like, oh, if you could describe which are your personal responsibilities. And I prepared like 5 questions on personal ownership, like, why don't you answer? And I wrote the questions like, my primary responsibility for the team is the team depends on me for, under pressure, I communicate when this happens, and what I commit adjusting. Some questions, and here everybody participated. It was very nice. I mean, the room was nice, people were happy, and they were starting to build some ownership. They noticed what was happening with the roles and responsibilities. Um, let's see. Some people did say, we need clarity, this is not clear. There was still something in the air that had to be worked, because before you improve relationships and roles and responsibilities and be able to express what you really need, I think you need to to really be able to talk openly, right? So after we talked a little bit about the responsibilities, and they had this interesting discussion, what was overlapping, this is your responsibility, not mine, you're stepping on me, that type of comments. I think we finally went to the turning point, which was, uh, we need to be more empathetic. We need to learn from each other. We need to understand what makes us a strong team. We're not working individually. We're working for a system, for the results of the team. They asked for petitions, what I need, what I don't need. I did a really nice personal exercise, which I liked. I was a little facilitator here on maybe 10 minutes on feedback, but not explaining how to give feedback, and not giving, I didn't want to give a class there, but how feedback and straight talk can be so important for a team. So, and can open up so many closed roads. So in this exercise, I did a self-revelation exercise. I knew they were not ready for a real feedback. They were not. They were just starting to build some trust there. But the question was, why don't we go around and everybody shares? And I wrote the questions. I said, you're open to use these questions or not. But it was a self-revelation that was something like, I think that the most I bring to the team, I think I'm viewed by the team as a person, blah, blah, blah. I would like you to see me like this. I would like to change, I would like to transform and bring more value to the team. There were like 3 open questions. They loved it. Tears. Uh, People who were extremely aggressive said, you see me as an aggressive person. I'm not aggressive. It was really, really a very deep exercise, and with a lot of learnings. And then I brought again the exercise, the stages of the team, the slide. I had a big mat, 2 by 2, huge. I put it in the floor and I said, stand where you think the team is now. So they stood there, they could see each other. It was very, very physical, and they had moved. They felt better, and we had a conversation. I asked, what do you need from each other? Open questions for the team to work on, just to open the reflection. They stayed standing up for I don't know how long, and I asked them if they wanted to sit down, and they didn't. So I think it was a very effective session, and effective. Uh, Effective conclusions. And this is where I'm at right now. I think they went with a very, strong sense of team. They opened many blocks there. I still have the doubt how much they can do and how much is like promises. They did have actions. They said they were, actually I have them here. These were actions they said they were going to start doing. We decided the next session would be virtual, um, which is in 10 days. And this is what they wanted, these were their actions, their call for action, and this is where I'm at. So, my question to you. Well, first I want to hear from you. And I think that's all I have. Yeah. Well, this is one of my conclusions. I love that culture is not the problem, it's the lack of conversations about culture. And I brought it to them, not in a slide, it was like in the last check-in, checkout. Okay, so this is what I did, and I would love to hear from you, and I would love to see what do you think I should do in the next session. I know you have to go, so I'll let you talk.
Well, thank you, Susie, for sharing the journey of this experience with the team and for sharing how agile you were to adapt and meet them where they were at. So that was very impressive. And I love where you've been able to name this, that it is just the style of conversations, how they're communicating. And so that's really insightful, and that will work with them even beyond this team for them to have this awareness. I guess I don't know that I would have advice about what you should do next. I feel like you're leaning into what does the team want to do to wrap up. This is the final one. The virtual will be the end of the engagement then. Okay.
I think they'll want more
Yeah.
later on, but this is the contract, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would just really be curious, how do they want to end well, and find out from them what would make it feel complete for now, knowing that perhaps there's a new chapter that begins of this.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Mm.
Yeah, that is my idea, but I want to hear
Mhm.
from all of you. Dave, do you
Mhm.
have any comments, questions of everything, the whole process?
Um, Susie, I thought it was great, and I learned a lot. It brought back lots of memories from the training that I went through. I was part of cohort 10, and um, I like Tracy. I don't know that I have a lot to add, but you did a great job. I like how you pivoted and that you were bringing up the conversation. Um, some of the things I remembered, are the interviews, the using of assessments, and um, I don't know everything else. Great job.
Thank you.
So I really enjoy listening to the whole case. And I have some questions, and I may edit this piece later, when I share the recording, because I don't want everybody to listen to this piece. So following the ICF model of team coaching, I hear that you were very effective in assessing what was happening with the team. And one of the key elements that was missing was trust. There were a lot of assumptions. There were what is pretty common, pretty universal. I think most teams deal with these cultural differences and how they manage that. And so you open a space for people to build trust and to be a more effective team. The question that I have is that if we follow the International Coach Federation framework, this may be considered more team building than team coaching. So the question for you would be, what do you think about that?
Um,
How
I
will you
feel
how will you differentiate that from, because I have an idea. I want to hear what you have to say, and then I will tell you what
no,
was
I
in my mind.
mix. I mix. I think what I mix is I come up maybe with four questions. I as a team to discuss them. Of course, it is team building, maybe, or team building, because I came up with the exercise, but the team coaching comes after. So I think the combination sometimes is really important. It's not only listening to the team and having them discuss on their own, because sometimes they need a little bit of this team um, development, or whatever we want to call team building. And yes, I like them to see it vividly, like the mat. I opened a question, where do you think we are? But I left
So
them there
you
for an hour,
so this is the point that I want to make, just to be sure. I think that what you did was very effective, and I think if I would have been in your shoes, probably I would have done something similar. because this is what the team needed.
We
So-
lost you, Damon, or I lost you. Is that okay? I don't know. I can't hear anymore.
Can you hear me? Everybody can hear me?
There,
Okay,
yes.
okay, good.
Yes.
So what I was saying is, if I would be in your shoes, I would have done probably something similar. Because what you did is you evaluated the team, you assessed the team, and you realized that there were some conversations missing. So your job as a team coach was to create a space for people to have the conversations that they didn't have, the assumptions, the cultural issues that were in their way. And by opening the conversation and by asking questions and making people to engage, you support the team to develop trust and to be more cohesive and be more productive. The point that I want to make is that is a required process in team building. So you support the team to build and be more effective. So now, from the ICF perspective, the team coaching would start when you start going to their meetings and see how they are working and providing some feedback or comments or questions to make the people think about how they are evolving and performing during the meetings. So I would say you did the team coaching because you did the assessment, you did some team facilitation and team building to provide the foundation for the team to work effectively together. And now that they are there attending meetings and providing some process comments and engaging the team in their learning, because as you realize they don't have conversations about learning, that was part of the thing you got, is what is going to create the engagement. So what do you think about that?
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. And that actually in my first conversations, what that was like part two, like coming in and see how they can put all together all this that they have learned in their everyday life and work because they work virtually. So that is something I would like to contract for. I think would be very helpful for them. And see, by the way, the leader from United States, she resigned. So instead of having her resign, almost after the in-person, she was very aggressive with another member, and the CEO said, "This is it. Like you didn't learn anything." And I'm not sure if they moved her to another area. I'm not sure. But my idea is to see them work. I do believe there was a lot of team coaching ICF model in the first 3 virtual sessions because all I did was, I mean, I brought a video, I brought a resource, but I had them discuss where they were, what was missing, what they needed. In ways of working, I asked them, the question of the ground rules, how do you want to work together, what would be more effective? Like there were a lot of questions that really opened up these conversations. So I do think it's a mix, but I believe that there was like I would say the 70%, 80, 70, it is team coaching to my view because of the questions, my interventions, when I intervened, when I left the team, just go, when I ask one question just to move them back. And yes, yeah,
Tracy,
definitely.
what is your perspective on this?
I appreciate Susie adding more context to
Mhm.
this. And so I'm thinking about team coaching. It's where you hold the team, the entity in that space. And so you're asking questions of that entity. And so I didn't hear Susie describing that she was having conversations with one person at a time. So it wasn't group coaching for sure. It was team coaching. And I mean, I think there is some educational pieces, even in executive coaching and in one-to-one coaching, we have to share frameworks from time to time, as long as that's what's contracted and that's what the team is asking for. Which I think that's where my question to Susie or my suggestion for the final session is, what's the team's agenda for this final session? Because I think that's a big portion of what differentiates team coaching versus team building or well, I guess team development's the big umbrella, but team building is more our agenda versus team coaching is their agenda.
Yeah, I believe I still need to have a conversation this week with her, with the CEO, but I think what would be very helpful would be to integrate the breakthrough, uh, name their learning, communication styles, how they're working, listen to them, having them, decide where they want to go, and and go back to some of their team agreements, see if they're working, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and how do they want to keep on working together if I weren't be there as their coach, right? Like, let's like making sure that everything they build, they can keep, you know, using it, and it's still present and active, and it's still working. And if not, what's missing? Like I want to leave it very open to see how the team wants to move.
And it would be great. It would be great that you come back and do session 2 of this, like in a few months. That you continue working with
the
them
second part?
and see what happened, and you do a second part. How does it sound?
Sure, and I can do much shorter this first presentation, and we can
That's
see
great.
when.
That's a great presentation. It was a great presentation. So thank you very much for taking the time to do it. I think many people will benefit because even though they are not here, they will watch the recording. So thank you very, very much for taking the time to do this. And thank you, Dave and Tracy, for joining. And I'm going to stop recording.